Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the Black and White United Show. I'm your host Andreas. Thank you so much for tuning in. In tonight's video, we're going to preview the game against Adelaide at the MCG on Saturday. Roll the intro.
0, 1. Let's get started.
Today's video is brought to you by Hopper Bros Barbecue. For all your tips and tricks and everything barbecue, make sure you give them a follow on Instagram. So Collingwood, Adelaide, we've had so many close encounters with them, whether it be over in Adelaide or at the MCG. Obviously in recent years, most of them have been decided by a kick and under. Back in 2017, we drew against them. After leading most of the day, they came right back at us, and then I'm pretty sure it was Mitch McGovern who kicked the ceiling goal to draw the game against Adelaide. So yeah, it's a fascinating contest, this one. It's something that we shouldn't take lightly. This game in particular, before I get to all the ins and outs and stuff, this game in particular is an 8-point game. If we're able to get up, we will be 2 games plus a healthy percentage locked into the top 4 at 10 rounds into the season. It is such an important game, probably realistically our most important thus far this season. If we're able to lock ourselves into the top 4 at this time of the season with a really healthy and good list available, plus a really good set of games coming up after this one, we are looking at potentially locking ourselves into the top 4 when the push comes to shove right at the end of the season with managing players. The coaching staff and everybody has done a fantastic job so far, but let's talk about the magnets. So our outs this week are pretty big. Our captain Darcy Moore's out with an AC injury. Lockie Schultz, obviously with that bad concussion and all the drama that's followed with that, he's out for this week. The rumor is, and the feedback that we're getting from a lot of sources, is that he's probably only going to miss the 1 game, which is fantastic. So he should be ready for our game next week, which I believe is against North Melbourne. Oleg Markov is the one who does get omitted. A little bit unfortunate from his limited game time against Fremantle, but you've got to make way when you've got the ins, such as Braden Maynard, who is our captain for this game. Brody Mychek comes back, I think it was from an abdominal strain, which he got against Geelong. And obviously the GOAT, Scott Pendlebury, makes his way back into the team. With the team selection that we've got, which I'll go through in a minute, I do think Ed Allen, who kept his spot this week, which is great, finally he gets to back it up with 2 games in a row. I think he'll be our sub. I don't think we can have a player like Sullivan as a sub for this game, simply because it's probably going to be wet. It's going to rain on Friday night. It's going to be wet and cold in the morning on Saturday. So you would assume that we'd probably want to have those midfielders, those in and under type of players. I know he's not at the level of Jordan De Goey when obviously Geordie's firing, but he plays that very similar, get the ball, burst speed, that type of game style. So it's very important to us that he plays the majority of the game and not a sub. With that being said, I'll probably say that, and then McRae will put in a sub. So we'll see how we go for that. So the team was announced tonight. We've got Maynard in the back, Howe full-back, Dan Houston back pocket, Perryman on the half-back flank, Billy Frampton's going to be centre half-back, and Isaac Quainer on the other half-back flank. The centres, Lipinski, Nick Dacos, and Crisp. Then you've got McCreary half-forward, Brody Mychek at centre half-forward, and Bobby Hill at full-forward. You've got Jamie Elliott forward pocket, Mason Cox at full-forward. This is a big game for him. And then also Tim Membry in the other forward pocket. Your followers, Darcy Cameron, Scott Pendlebury, and Ned Long. The bench, well, you've got Josh Dacos, Ed Allen, Steele side bottom, and obviously Lockie Sullivan on the bench. It's a stack side, and it's so good that we've actually got a stack side at this part of the season to take on one of the most informed sides in the competition. So my 3 things as to say why Collingwood can actually, or how Collingwood's going to control this game and how we can pretty much win it from the get-go. The first one is the most important one, and you could see in the first 12 minutes of the game against Fremantle, our stoppages, our clearances, we could not get our hands on the ball. It wasn't until, after the 12-minute mark of the first quarter, we started to get that continuity going after Will Hoskin-Elliott obviously kicked his goal. The second thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we can push their defenders as high up to the ground as possible, and also push their forwards as high up at the ground as possible and leave it open. We are a very good one-way running team. We've had moments where we've been caught over the back at times, but I think in this game, we should be able to man up against their forwards quite well. With that being said, I do think their forwards obviously are the most important asset to them during this game. If our defenders can nullify what they bring into the forward line and go man on man and push them out when they try and spread and just stop the delivery to Thilthorpe and stop the delivery into Tex Walker. And if they have to rely on players like Rankin, if they have to rely on players like Rochelle to do all the work, we can then push them pretty much out wide and then we can counter-attack them quite well. They are a very good forward line team. They are the best attacking team in the competition. On that being said though, we are also the best defensive side of the competition. This looks to be an amazing battle and I really can't wait to see what we've got in this situation. The other thing that I think is really important for us, because it's going to be wet, Adelaide are a very top-heavy side. You look at the players they've got, they are quite tall, quite broad, quite big, even like the players like Darcy Fogarty, for example, as a third tall forward, big bodies. We're very similar in the forward line as well, but I think we've got more of the capability to bring it to the ground and let our forwards and our mids do the work. I think it's going to be massive, and I can't wait to see Mason Cox in the forward line. If he doesn't grab him, he competes and he brings the ball to ground, and then you've got players like your Bobby Hills and Jamie Elliott's and your Membries, who I'm going to mention in a minute. They can really affect the scoreboard and give high intensity scoreboard pressure from the get-go. Obviously, as I said, Adelaide can dominate us by the forward line pressure that they bring. If they get those midfield entries right, and these are the two things I think that they can really try and beat us, and I think it'll give us a lot of red flags early if they get control of the game. The stoppage work, if they win the stoppage with their midfield and they bring it forward, we are in trouble if they do it very quickly because their forward line is so damaging, but their midfield is just as damaging as well. So we need to win the stoppages. If Adelaide win the stoppages and they deliver it straight into the forward line, they're the two areas in this game, don't worry about their backs, these are the two areas of their game that we're going to struggle to compete. And I can just see them getting the ball out of the middle and going straight down the middle instead of pushing wide like we tend to do at times as well. We can stop that. We can get our hands on the ball in the center clearances and in the stoppages around the ground. We should be okay. Players like Lipinski, players like McCreary, players like Quainer, players like a Bobby Hill, right? Those players on the flanks and the wings can come into the stoppages and they can be your fourth, your fifth, your sixth, your seventh midfielder and really attack the ball and get those hand passes out to the likes of your Dacosses and your Houstons running forward. That's how we can beat them. But that's also how they can beat us too in those stoppages. Hands on the ball is the main thing that we're going to worry about against the Crows. So 3 players that I think that we need to watch for Adelaide in this game in particular is Thilthorpe, because he barely drops them, right? And he's just a powerful forward. So he's going to take probably a Billy Frampton. The next one is probably an Alex Neil-Bullen. Now, I think Braden Maynard will go up against him, and Braden Maynard should have him covered. But if Neil-Bullen gets a run on, and he did it when he played against Melbourne a few times, he can really control that forward line and navigate where things go. He's a very underrated player. So if we can nullify his impact in the forward line and make them rely on their superstars even more, that might work in our favour. But they're the two that I think we need to watch in the forward line. On the flip side, in their defence, I think our forward line has got their defence covered by a country mile. But I love the way, and probably because he's a former Collingwood player, I love the way Keane's playing. The mark he took against Port Adelaide last week and just his general play this year, it reminds me of a Nathan Murphy in the way that he does the intercept marking, the short 45 kicks and stuff. And he's very dangerous. If our delivery into the forward line isn't on point, regardless of the situation of the game, and he's taking uncontested marks, intercept marks, and he's starting to control the movement, very much like a quarterback type, we could be in a little bit of trouble. I don't rate him as a superstar or anything, but I think the way that he's playing so far this year has been really good, and it's definitely something that we need to watch. So I'm going to give you 2 Collingwood players that I think are going to really have a good game, and 2 Collingwood players that are the ones to watch here, especially if the ball's wet, and especially if it's a dewy day, wet weather footy. Ned Long in the middle, I think can absolutely crunch packs in this game. I think Ned Long can be like your Jordan De Goey 2.0. I think Ned Long, It reminds me of his burst of speed when he gets the ball, very similar, not obviously to that level, but very similar to the way Swanee got the ball and he just burst out of the pack. I can see Ned Long having that sort of influence on Saturday. I can also see Ned Long getting the ball from a stoppage around the forward 50 and delivering it straight into a Mason Cox or just going for goal and just busting the pack. I think this game is tailor-made for a player like him, which then relieves the other superstars like your Nick Dacos, your Scott Pendlebury, still side bottoms, and it lets them run a bit more looser. He's going to be the engine room in this game, so he's one to watch. The other one, and I get this feeling from Anzac Day, I think Tim Membry can kick 4 goals against Adelaide. So he's probably going to play up against Worrell, which I don't really rate that much. If the ball comes to ground, right, Membry is the perfect player you want to scoop the ball up, snap a goal, or if it's a clean delivery and Cox brings out another defender, then you've got Tim Membry right there, and he's a pretty accurate set shot on goal. Goal kicking is going to be a massive one. This one, especially if it's in the wet. I can see Membry kicking 4, and I can see Ned Long getting 35 touches. As I said at the start, my sub for this game is probably going to be Ed Allen. It might be something different that Fly might choose, but I would definitely start Ed Allen as a sub this game. The other one I was thinking about potentially starting as a sub is a player like Will Hoskin-Elliott, simply because, and I've said it before in other videos, he can play other lines of the ground. He can play pretty much anywhere. Yes, they call him the Swiss Army knife. I know it's very generic to say because everyone calls him that. But in a game where it's wet against good opposition, you might want to have that ace card up your sleeve. I still think Ed Allen, though, will be a sub and he'll probably come in halfway through the third quarter. My tip for this one here, the Pies by 14 points in a wet, miserable day at the MCG. I feel like it's going to have a lot of similarities between the game that we played against Carlton, just the contest, the labour-intensive work. That's probably how I see it. Nevertheless, as I said at the start of the video, this game is so important. We can lock ourselves inside the top half of the top 4 pretty much, be 2 games clear, healthy percentage. It's something that we desperately need, and you want to back it up after having, what is it now, an 8-9 day break after we played Fremantle down at Optus. The players are refreshed, they're ready to go. We've got some superstars back in the side. I think this one here, we shouldn't be dropping a game like this, especially if we want to progress into the pointy end of the season. Make sure you leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Call it as you see it. And as always, go the Pies.